Let's talk about how to use the tidyr package to construct a tidy dataset. The main functions in the tidyr package are the pivot underscore wider function and the pivot underscore longer function. The pivot underscore wider function spreads a column of a data frame into multiple columns, so it makes the data frame wider, and the resulting data frame is going to have fewer rows, but more columns, i.e. it's wider. The other function is pivot underscore longer, which gathers multiple columns into a single column. Because of that, the resulting data frame is going to have more rows, it's going to be longer, and it's going to have fewer columns. Naturally, there are other functions in the tidyr package. I think these are the most commonly used ones, though we're also going to talk about the unite and separate functions, which are used to unite two columns into a single column, and separate, which separates a single column into two different columns. Tidying a data set can be quite complicated, and you may find yourself doing odd things like using the pivot underscore wider function to make the data frame wider, and then using pivot underscore longer to make it longer, and then using pivot underscore wider again to widen the data frame in a different way. And it is usually an iterative process that takes several steps in order to get a tidy data set. So I wanted to provide some tips for tidying a data set in general. So the first step, of course, is to identify the ways in which your data are not tidy. Until you know what needs to be tidied, you're not going to be able to go through the process of tidying the data. Next, and this is essential, identify a single aspect of the data that you want to make tidy, or at least something that brings the data set closer to being tidy. Don't try to tidy multiple aspects of the data set in a single go. Identify one way in which you can improve the tidiness of the dataset, and once you've made that identification, then work on trying to tidy that single aspect of the data. Then, once you've accomplished what you wanted to, then you can go back to step 2, identify another aspect of the data that you want to make tidy, repeat step 3 and tidy that single aspect of the data, and keep doing 2 and 3 over and over and over again until you actually get the tidy data set that you want. So this really is an iterative process. I know that when I do this, I tidy one aspect of the data, I look at the result, and then I figure out what is the next thing I need to tidy about this data set. Once the data set is tidy, if you want, you can combine the many tidying steps that you've done into a single command using the pipe operator. This might make it easier to share the tidying process with somebody else, to clean your code, to make it more compact, whatever. You don't have to do it that way. But the thing about tidying data is that it is a one step at a time process. Do not try to bite off more than you can chew and do multiple tidying things in one single statement. Make sure you divide it into different steps, into different parts, and complete each part successfully before moving on to the next part.